All right. Welcome everybody. Back to an episode of Weekly Braindump. My name is Nico. My screen I can see Constantine. And yeah, first of all, hey, what's up?
Yeah, what's up? How are you? How are you doing?
I'm good. I'm good. How about you? What have you been doing this week?
I'm doing I'm doing great. My week started quite annoying. I was cleaning my PC and I dropped my RAM onto my other RAM stick, ripped off a transistor, and both were damaged. So that was fun.
Oh, that's dope. That's
Um,
perfect. So
yeah,
happy for
that's
you.
perfect. Yeah. Um, and then I kind of prepared for the starting semester, which is gonna start on Monday. So like organized all the stuff, picked my classes, and so on and so on. Yeah, all in all, I had holidays. Was a good week. Was relaxing. Didn't do too much, but it was fun. Yeah. What about you?
Last time we recorded, I was back in my hometown, or well, we were both back in our beautiful hometown in Tübingen. Now I'm back home in Berlin. Um, there hasn't been too much to do since, technically uni started, but most classes usually start the second week of the semester, at least in Germany. Um, so yeah, there has been a lot of chilling. Well, I worked a little bit. I actually had one cool thing happening to me. I developed an app a few years ago. At the time, just to kind of get into app development or like iOS development. And I'm not gonna say the name now. I just don't wanna make any advertisement for it. But eventually, I'll say it at a later point in time. Yesterday I found out that it is on the App Store charts for entertainment, and I think it's number 185.
I think it's
It's
even 83 on the screenshot you shot me. So you made two
maybe
points good there.
I don't remember. However, like that made me very happy, especially because I haven't updated the app in like almost 2 years, I believe. And that made me insanely proud.
Yeah, that's
It's
understandable.
kind
Like,
of cool. Yeah, it's crazy because like the downloads have been kind of growing since COVID hit,
mhm.
and it's so yeah. Thank you, COVID.
It's always nice to get rewards without putting in any work, right? It's just
Yeah,
set it
I
out there and
really
farming.
I really like it. Absolutely. Especially because at the time when I really put a lot of work into it and I updated the app like literally monthly, I had, I don't know, maybe 5 to 10 downloads a day. No, that's way too much. Maybe let's say 2 to 5 downloads a day. Like if there was a day where I would get 10 plus downloads, it would be insane for me. I would literally freak out. And now I get, so like I checked for the past 13 weeks, I had a weekly average of like 450 downloads. And I guess like those are just stupid stats and I don't even get money because the app is completely free,
But it's
but
fun. Like,
it's still kind of fun to watch. And yeah, absolutely.
as far
Um,
as I know, you never made some advertisement for it. So right, it's just growing generically. Like,
it's completely,
it's
yeah,
yeah,
absolutely.
that's
The
nice.
only thing I used was basically when you create an Apple developer account, Apple gives you $100 that you can spend in App Store advertisement, which I used in its entirety at the time, and you can see how many downloads you get from that, and it was like 100. So
Nice.
it
Yeah.
wasn't that worth it.
But those evergreens are great. I can kind of relate because on my YouTube channel I have one video which is one of my first ones, and I never like I still get followers and views from that one. It's just farming. Like you put one thing up and it generates something for you without you revisiting it. It's so good.
Yeah, but it's so fascinating how like sometimes there are like these videos, or like in this case like this one app that all of a sudden it starts gaining some traction,
Yeah, and you
and
don't
then it
even know
becomes,
why that much.
and
Like
you have no idea why exactly, and it just becomes bigger and bigger, especially this app in particular. At this point in time, like when I look at the UI, it's not like I'm cringing because I kind of like it, but there's a lot of space for improvement still.
that could be a reference to one of our like previous episodes with the projects.
Yeah, but
That's the
well, that was a
cringe code.
different. That was still a different project. That one was bad, bad.
But you still look back and you're like, would have
Yeah,
done it
exactly.
differently right now.
Yeah, and I mean, I've been working on like some kind of an update on the side for in forever, but the thing is that it's bad code, and I have to kind of rewrite everything, and it takes time, and I just don't find the time to actually get a proper update. Since with work and uni, all getting a little bit much. But anyways, this is not the topic of today's episode. Something that we wanted to talk about today. It's not really tech related, but as we mentioned before, this podcast is not only going to be about tech. It's about whatever we feel like talking about. And one of the biggest topics, I guess, of the past years has been fake news. And what we want to talk about is why are people not able to inform themselves properly, and what, in our opinion, some people could do better. Also, we will talk about a few personal examples or like few personal stories that or things that we've experienced where people clearly misinformed themselves.
Yeah, exactly. What do you think? Should we start with an example to maybe show even better what we mean, or would you just go first on the theoretical part and then bring on the examples later on? I think it would be good to start with an example, maybe.
Yeah,
Because
that's a good idea.
I have one right here.
Yeah,
I would just start with one.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I was basically in a discussion with it's even like a friend of mine, not that much anymore, but we used to do a lot together when we were in school, and we were discussing about a topic. It doesn't really matter which topic it was. And we were literally getting to a point where both our arguments were basically, they were accepted by the other person, and you couldn't really like go further on from it. So my friend reached out to some papers. So he searched for some papers, hit me up with I even have a paper for that, so I'm right. Yeah, happened to not be the case. I read the paper he sent me. Basically, what happened, he just skimmed through the abstract. The first few lines were indicators of what he said, and then it basically completely turned around, and the whole paper was about proving my point, basically. And he just sent me the paper, completely proud, like, now I got you, now you need to agree. And I was like, yeah, well, thanks for the paper. Now I don't need to search, but like, how does that happen? And I think that's even for people that kind of work with papers or with reading a lot on the daily, even to those people that can happen. So it's not just like dumb people doing those things. It's like it could happen to everyone, and everyone should be cautious about where you get your sources from and actually reading. And I think that happens a lot, especially in the current time where like headlines are flashy. You read for 20 seconds, then most people don't concentrate on it anymore. And I think it happens a lot, and like media is baiting that a little bit. So you put something in the headline, and then everyone reads it and distributes the information basically without even reading the whole text underneath the headline often. Like, I think that's a big problem already.
I think, especially now when it comes to the paper example, the biggest issue there was that sometimes a lot of people, and I think I can definitely include myself there, and I guess we're all part of this problem. Sometimes we want to read what we want to read, in the sense that, you know, we have, in that case, you know, this friend of yours had a certain opinion about something, or he believed that he had his facts right. So he started reading this paper, and all he was looking for was keywords. And so, based on these keywords, basically, he started, you know, believing that he was right about whatever he believed in. I don't know. Do you want to say what the topic was, or is that unrelated?
I don't even remember correctly. I think it was something even computer science related. We were talking about some input latency stuff on like RAM controllers or something like that, which was like basically a gaming topic where I said, yeah, that can matter. Like choosing different specific hardware can matter for your games. He was like, nah, no case that matters. And then yeah, he was pulling out papers which were kind of suggesting otherwise.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I understand. Yeah, I guess, but that's always like this looking for keywords is the big issue, and especially nowadays that you know, like you always oftentimes like use, I don't know, social media to get some kind of headlines from, and even like serious newspaper. I'm not even talking about some joke newspapers. Still, even the serious ones still make their money through, you know, through clicks. And if you click on their website, eventually even buy the article. So a lot of people do, and I know, for example, someone that works in journalism, or like she studied studied journalism. What she did was that she had a variety of newspapers on Twitter that she followed, and so she just went through the headlines, and that's how she got her information. However, a lot of times you forget that even those can be very misleading. And like I'm talking like, you know, newspapers like New York Times and Washington Post, if you look at the US, for example. Um, and I guess this is where the big problem actually starts. And or even if you know, what a lot of people do is, yeah, they either share it, like share the information right away, or even if they don't share it on social media, still like they read this headline and they instantly assume to know what happened, and they start to build a certain, let's call it, background story there. And when they start, you know, arguing with other people, or like start talking about news with other people, they, you know, immediately, or they basically tell what they believe they understood. They tell you like all the information that they got from this headline. However, they still manage to talk about this topic for, I don't know, 10 to 15, 20 minutes. And this is how this complete misinformation starts to happen. Um, for example, like when if we want to keep going with headlines on social media, like one thing that really almost bothered me, that happened about a year ago, a little bit less than that. I think it was summer of last year. Um, a friend of mine from the US, he shared a post on Facebook, and it was from some English news site. I've never heard of that one before. Anyways, it said that it had a big image of Merkel at the time, looking sad, and the headline said, "COVID numbers in Germany just tripled." And I mean, since I'm living in Germany, I was wondering myself at the time, since nothing really happened and nobody said anything, how that it's possible that cases in Germany all of a sudden tripled, and nobody knew about this except this little shitty ass English news site.
They're onto some shit.
So yeah, exactly. So I went to this website. I read the article. It said something about, yeah, tripling numbers, blah blah. First of all, I started taking a closer look at the website, and the next article that it proposed was, "This is why World War III is about to happen."
So completely legit and
yeah,
good
absolutely legitimate website, exactly. And then I started like asking myself, okay, how the hell did they get this information that the numbers in Germany just tripled? So what I did was I took a look at the actual COVID numbers in Germany at the time, and basically we have this there's a website where you can basically check the real numbers, and I checked for like the last 7 days at the time, and at the time we had a daily number of new infections of like I think it was 900 every day. It was 900. And what happened was that one specific day it dropped to 300, and a day later it went back to 900. And that's how this whole article was created.
Technically, they were not wrong.
Technically, they were right. That's true. However, I would argue with the fact that such a headline might be very misleading. And anyways, I remember I approached this friend of mine. I told him, "Listen, this is wrong what you shared there. I just want to let you know. I just wanted to clarify this." However, there were a lot of other people that saw this exact article, or this exact headline with the image of a sad Merkel, and thought to themselves, "Oh, okay, looks like the situation in Germany must be terrible right now. and and this is how this completely false information started spreading, and this is where I see the like a huge problem nowadays. And in fact, this is also why uh, like I mean I have a few news sites that I follow myself, especially like the newspaper that I read, and but I started forcing myself not to believe what it says in the headline until I haven't read the entire article.
Yeah, exactly. That would also be a tip, in my opinion. Like, don't ever share something just by headlines. Read the whole thing, understand it, make sure you understand it correctly, and then you could share. I think like it happens so like it actually happens a lot. You think it would be like a rare occasion where that happens, but people sharing something or like telling you something, then you ask, where did you get that from? They say, yeah, I read this article. They send you the article, and actually it's not what they said. Like, for example, who's doing that really, really badly in Germany is NTV, the website, ntv.de. They shared an article about COVID, something about the rate of people actually dying from it. And the headline was something like a really suggestive thing. They said something like, more and more people are dying every day or something. And then in the article later on, like on the fifth or sixth paragraph, they said, that is a question we could ask ourselves, which isn't true. So you're basically putting the big thing in the headline, and then somewhere like 2 pages later, you say, we might be wrong and it's completely not true, but like, let's put it on the headlines. It's so annoying.
Exactly. That's where it's yeah, absolutely. And I mean, sure. On one hand, like I understand why newspapers nowadays have to clickbait, and to a certain degree, I think it's okay. But on the other hand, I feel like that takes away your entire credibility.
Yeah, and I certainly think there's a specific line. Like if you completely say the polar opposite of what you're writing in the article in the headline, that shouldn't be allowed.
No,
like you're
no,
like if you over like if you putting like go a little bit over the top, let's say it's like more numbers the day after than the day before, and you say rapidly increasing or something, I think that's fine, because then you can argue what's rapidly. Is it really rapidly? But if you're completely saying something else, then what's like the current state, that's just like straight up lying and spreading false information. And also I think like there should be some liability of the media outlets. There should be something you could do legally against that, in my opinion, because you're spreading false information. Like you're actually harming society by that. There should be something you could do against it.
I mean, technically, you're right. I guess the whole issue, it's the whole rule of great rule of free speech. So technically,
the issue of free speech.
the issue of free speech. This is something we have to fight against. No, obviously not. But since there is free speech and you are allowed to say whatever you want to, and you're not actually attacking someone in specific with this article, at least in Germany, you are allowed to say whatever. And this is why there are also those fake news sites. Like in Germany, there's a very famous one that's called Postillon. In the US, for example, there's Onion Network, which is very hilarious. And fortunately, like that's what the first thing they write on their website is that it's fake news. It's simply for entertainment. And it's good that there can be something like that. But yeah, it's a huge problem that there are like a lot of news sources not taking the actual news so seriously anymore, but are just trying to kind of capitalize on the information.
But I have an interesting question for you real quick. Like there are some areas where you can actually like decrease the amount of free speech you can get. For example, in Germany, you can't say certain things regarding history. Okay? So there are rules.
Specifically Nazis, for example.
Yeah, exactly. There are rules where you can say free speech is limited in this regards. Would it be a strange idea to limit free speech in a way where it actually harms society? Sure, you should be able to say what you want, but if you're a big news outlet with a lot of often impressionable viewers, should you be allowed to state complete lies? Like there must be
I
some liability. I mean, if you publish a paper that's complete bingus, you will like not publish that many papers in the future anymore because no one will listen to you, or just the publishers won't accept your stuff anymore. So why should you be able to do that as a like media outlet?
I think on a legal point of view, it is very hard to define such a rule in a way that you don't start censoring, or like that the government can start censoring true information as well. Because if you go to that extent, like, who is going to decide what's true and what's false, and what's okay to say and what's not okay to say? So yeah, on the one hand, like, I agree with you, but on the other hand, I think if it was that easy to define that line, it would have already been implemented. But I think in the end, I mean, this whole topic should less be about what can the news outlets do, but rather what can we do, like, as as readers. And I mean, I'm not a journalist. I've never studied that. However, like, the number one rule that everybody should know from the field of journalism is the two sources rule. So if you want to get any kind of information, you should always get the same information from two completely independent and different sources. And that's when you know that, or that's when you can start actually trusting this information. And I think this is something that everybody should do eventually. So if especially if there's any kind of news that you're not sure about, that might seem a little bit stretched, always double check your news. And also, if the news site you're looking at seems kind of off, then please double check the news that you just read, or the information that you just read.
I just like the other day I read an interesting article about this like two principle rule where you have two sources of your information, and this guy was arguing for upping it, like in the age of social media, because everyone shares everything so fast, upping it to 5 sources, which is a bit too much, I think. But like sometimes, especially like bigger news outlets often get the news from the same source and then distribute it. For example, NTV is the same, gets the same news as Bild.de. So if you would check NTV and Bild.de, there would actually be the same source of the news. So sometimes even two are not enough, but obviously it's better than one.
It's always better than one, exactly. Yeah, I guess technically the number is endless. You could always go higher, but this is why
Always
I said
check 100 sources.
always check one. uh, but I would still, I would like what I already said. Like, you have to. This is why you have to check two independent news sites. So like two or not news sites, but like newspapers that like are independent from each other. This is what I mean by independent, by the way.
Yeah. Yeah, I know what you meant. But like sometimes it's not that clear in the beginning, right? You would check two different sites and you would think, yeah, that's obviously two different sites, but maybe they are owned by the same company and then it's not really different.
Yeah, I guess. And also, like, to anybody that gets their news through Google, and eventually stay away from that too. It is very dangerous to like just Google news, because very often it transfers you to some very weird newspapers that might not always have their facts straight. And so try to inform yourself, first of all, what news sources are actually legit, who can I trust, and try to focus, or like try to get your news mostly from these news sources. And nowadays, most of these newspapers have a website where a lot of their articles are actually free to read. So take advantage of that. And you don't have to, if you don't have the money, you don't have to immediately pay. I don't even know how much a newspaper costs, to be honest, because I'm lucky enough that my parents pay for that, and I just get their account. But it's really not necessary. That's the best thing you can do. And finally, I would also like to give one more example of reading the news, which went absolutely terrible, and that was this. this ex coworker of mine. I I had her on Instagram, and she it was back in I think in April or May. I don't quite remember when the whole story with George Floyd happened, when Derek Chauvin, the police officer, killed George Floyd. And basically this fake newspaper that I've already talked about, this it's not they're not called fake newspaper. What are they called? Like those joke newspapers that
Yeah, like it's basically comedy, basically just
exactly
entertainment.
they intentionally put everything yeah to give you false information. But again, they say that they give you false information. It's just for entertainment purposes. Anyways, they had this fake article saying that the police officer was suing the family of George Floyd because he hurt his knee while actually kneeing on his on his neck. And I know this is really ugly and mean, and it's terrible, but this is the whole information is so fucked up, and like it's obvious that this is not the case. And and this girl, she posted that fucking article on her story, and
Looks legit.
she wrote above it, "Wow, this is so fucked up. I can't believe it."
Well,
So please always always double check your news or your
Yeah.
information.
that's actually quite true. Yeah. Oh man, that's tragic. That's actually so tragic.
That is so sad. Like to this day, this is one of the saddest things I've ever heard.
Yeah. Well, I actually have one more little thing I would love to add. I know we're quite deep into like the episode already, and we won't stretch it too long. But I think one more little thing really needs to be added. I see the main problem is ideology and emotions. Try to keep those two out when researching facts, because if you're basically just searching for things that agree with what you're thinking, you will find those things. And people get emotional over everything, and this leads to basically just poor research. You don't spread the spectrum of information wide enough. That leads to only information that confirms your thoughts, and therefore this can also lead to spread of misinformation. Because if you, for example, discussing with a friend and you really want to make that point, it's more likely to stretch a little bit further for some fishy information than when you tell someone completely unemotionally, yeah, this is just what I read. I think that's also quite important.
Yeah, I to be honest, I don't have anything to add to this. I think this is absolutely right, and I I think well, technically we could talk about this topic as well, like forever. I can only say one last time, double check the information that you read. I will try doing that more as well in the foreseeable, not in the foreseeable future, in the future in general. I think we should all do this. This is not meant to teach everybody else how to properly read news. This is something that, or mistakes that we all do from time to time.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
So I think this is it on my behalf.
Yeah.
This was a lot of fun as always, and I can't wait to talk about the next topic in the following
Yes,
week.
Exactly. And thank everyone for listening. In the first week, we actually got 10 downloads on the podcast, which is massive. we are farming, but actually, no. Thank you for everyone who was listening. And yeah, Nico, it was fun for me. Also, I always enjoy meeting up and doing those short sessions, and I can't wait for the next one.
All right. Talk to you next time. Bye.